Darrell Hazell's hustling to the podium, about to begin his 4th year as the head coach at Purdue. Let's listen in to the Boilermaker head man.
In terms of Purdue University, it's been 3.5 years in the making for us to get to this point, and we're at a great place right now. You know, I used to drive up I-65, and on the northbound side there used to be a billboard that sat on the side of the road. And the first year I saw it, I said, oh, okay, it's okay. The second and third year, I said, you know what? It's starting to bother me a little bit. And the sign said, the train is coming. And in the back of my mind, I said, at some point in time, the train has to get here. It has to arrive. That sign's no longer there. I think you're going to like what steps off the train this year. Those 3 guys that we brought here with us to Chicago are a great representation of what we have in our locker room. Jawan Bentley, Jake Replogle, and D'Angelo Yancey won't only be the best players in the Big Ten, but they'll be the best players in the country. And we're looking forward to those guys. But they represent who we are, and the hard work and the sweat that it's taken to get to this point. And we're excited about this season. We open up camp August the 3rd, and then we open up our season against Eastern Kentucky on September the 3rd. And we're excited about the football team that's in our locker room.
Thank you, Coach. We'll take questions now. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone right over to you. Coach, our first question will be on the right side of the room, on the aisle toward the back.
Hi, Darrell. Pete DePrino, Fort Wayne News Sentinel. Can you talk a little bit about what you need to see from the offensive line and what has to happen in order for you to have that kind of success?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's where it starts on our offensive side, Pete, is those guys playing in unison. We have, you know, in the springtime, we only had 9 bodies in that room. Right now we have 19. So we're going to have create some depth with some of those younger guys. But, you know, you got 2 experienced guards that played a lot of football for us. And that's the one thing about our football team. We have had to play a lot of young players. So those guys have got a lot of experience. We have a brand new center. We think is pretty talented guy. Very explosive, very strong, and very intelligent. And then our left tackle, Martese Patterson's a phenomenal player. Great feet, 337 pounds. We got to figure out that right tackle spot. We have a couple candidates that we like, but those guys have to play in unison. That's the big question and big goal for those guys to play. Protect the quarterback's the #1 thing. We got to make sure our quarterback can throw the football because they're more than capable of being successful if they have time.
Floor is open right now. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Jody, we have one down front here. We're going to go over to the back, Coach, all the way on our right first.
Hi, Darrell. Stacey Clarity with Golden Black. When will you announce David Blau as your starting quarterback?
That's a loaded question right there, Stacey. You know, we're going to go through the first couple of weeks of camp. David's obviously got an edge coming out of spring football, but like I said, those guys, both of those guys, David and Elijah, are more than capable of winning a lot of football games. You know, what I've liked about those guys is that they've slowed the game down. They've shown tremendous leadership. They're throwing it with some accuracy, and they're playing with some confidence. So it'll be a few weeks before we make that decision.
Coach, our next question, I believe, all the way on the left side of the room.
Tim May, Columbus Dispatch. Hi, Darrell. As you look back on it now, how depleted was the roster from the standpoint of, I don't know, viable Division I-A players when you took the job at Purdue, and do you feel like you are there now? Is that what you're talking about stepping off the train?
Yeah, I think, I'm not going to comment on where the roster was at that point in time. I'll just say this, that we've been able to get to this position by doing a good job of recruiting good players. We've played a lot of young guys that are ready to play. I mean, you take a look at Jake Replogle. He's 6'5", he's 292 pounds. We played him as a true freshman at 6'4.5" at 242 pounds. That's not fair to him. That's not fair to the program, but that's something that we had to do. He's a good player. He'll play at any place, so we're excited to have him ready to go.
Coach, we'll move back to the right side of the room on the aisle.
Okay. Hey there, Paul Banks, sportsbank.net, Red Eye. Given what the last few years have been and given the morale of your base right now, what are you what can you point to specifically to give them more hope and have more uplift about the upcoming season?
I tell you, the most important people where the morale counts is in your locker room, and our morale is off the chart right now. We're ready to go, and that will stimulate the morale of the rest of the Boilermaker Nation, and that's why we're excited to get this team started.
Floor is open right now. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Alexis on your right. Coach, our left, all the way in the back of the room, Coach.
Mike DeFabo, CNHI News Service. Coach, Markel Jones is coming off a big year. What are you expecting from him in his sophomore season?
Yeah, that's a great question. Markel is one of those young players that we played as a true freshman. He came in and hit the ground running. He scored a lot of touchdowns, scored 12 touchdowns, I believe. And the thing that I saw the other day, I didn't realize he caught 34 balls coming out of the backfield. So he's a kind of a dual threat weapon. The thing that you like about him is his maturity. He's a young guy. He's a pilot. He's very cool. He's a great finisher with the ball in his hands. He's got tremendous balance. And he's become a team leader as a sophomore, so he's going to have a big year for us. We need him to have a big year. We got to make sure we're smart as a coaching staff that we don't beat him up in preseason camp, because he's going to take a lot of shots throughout the course of the season. So we got to make sure we're smart and get him to the games, and he'll perform for us.
Please raise your hand. We'll get the microphone over to you if you have a question. Coach, we're going to come back on our right side on the aisle.
Hey, Darrell, again, what do you need to see from Bentley, and how is he health-wise from the knee surgery?
Well, it's great to get Jawan Bentley back. You know, when we lost Jawan last year with the knee, we lost a lot. We lost his productivity on the field. He's a very instinctive player, very physical player, but the biggest thing we probably lost was his leadership. Yeah, he's a great leader, and when he speaks to our football team, coaches sit up in the back of the room. That's how much leadership he has. So it's great to have him back, and he's 100% healthy right now. Thanks.
Coach, on the left side on the aisle, our next two questions over here.
Nathan Barrett from Lafayette Your Own Career. You mentioned how much you're going to depend on Markel this year, but obviously you lost DJ at the end of the spring. Where do things sit as far as finding who else is going to kind of pick up the ball there and with the running game?
Yeah, we have some young backs in the room. Richard Worship's one of those guys. Tario Fuller's one of those guys. And we just brought a guy in named Brian Langford Johnson, who we just timed in the 20s. He's got the fastest 20 time on our football team, only being there 2 weeks. He's really explosive, a guy that had a lot of numbers coming out of high school. So one of those guys will step up. Maybe two of them will step up, and they'll be able to spell Markel when he needs it.
Coach Jack Park, 97.1 The Fan. Your second game, Cincinnati, what would seem to be a big game as you get ready for the conference season. Could you talk about that just a little bit?
Well, I think for us to be ready for Cincinnati, we got to open up against Eastern Kentucky. So that's where our primary concern is. Obviously, Cincinnati's done a great job with that program over the years, and that will be another big contest at our stadium. We open up, September's a huge month for the Boilermakers. We open up against Eastern Kentucky, Cincinnati, and Nevada, and we start the Big Ten schedule after that against Maryland, but that's a big month for the Boilermakers.
We have time for a couple more questions. Take our next one all the way down front here.
Clinton Cole, Deep Dish Sports. Coach, losing Anthony Brown and Frankie Williams to your corners to the draft, that's big. How do you replace him this year?
Yeah, that's one of our early preseason things that we have to figure out. One of the solutions, we got to find out who's going to play on the edge for us. DeJuan Hunt was one of the corners that really stepped up this springtime. And there's a lot of candidates in-house to figure out who that next guy is going to be on the other side of the field, but they have to step up and do it. There's a lot of names that are very talented guys that can move and transition and break on the ball. They have to find some confidence early in camp, and so we can settle in on one guy. But we did lose two good corners there.
Still time for one or two more. Coach will stay on the right side of the room here on the aisle.
Coach, Purdue has been known as the cradle of quarterbacks, but production at the position has kind of declined the last couple of years. What do you attribute that to? Do you feel it's some of the athletes that have come in? Do you feel it's a supporting cast? And do you feel optimistic about the quarterback play getting back to that high standard again this year?
There's a combination of things, multiple things that may go into that. One of the things that we thought was very imperative in this off-season was the simplification. And that's one of the things that we did. We hired Terry Malone as our offensive coordinator, and our first conversation, even before offering him the job, was how are we going to help the quarterbacks play better at Purdue University? That was the #1 goal in the offseason. How do we get more productivity out of that position? And we talked about it extensively. And I think that's where we're going to make market improvements of where we were in the past few years. They're going to play confident. They're going to know where to go with the football, pre and post snap, and they'll be very accurate with the ball. Take care of it.
Coach, we'll take our final question on our left on the aisle, 2/3 back.
Hi, Coach. Jerry Palm from CBS. When you're in a 3-year funk like this, what's the biggest thing that has to change in the program to get the big leap forward that you're looking for this year?
Yeah, I guess I don't look at it as a 3-year funk. I just look at it as a growing process. And a lot of times on the outside, you can't see the things that are happening throughout the program where you're making progress. That's the vision that I see. And then you're getting guys in position to be successful. And that's our whole goal for those first couple of years. Our goal is obviously to win, but put people in a position so they can succeed. And I think I know we're in a position right now to go out and win some football games.
All right. Thank you very much, Coach.
All right. Thank you.